So in this demo, I'll walk you through how we can use AI as a partner in policy development, specifically building an AI policy for the town of Drumheller, Alberta. We're going to start broad and explore best practices and narrow down step by step until we have a clear, customized draft policy ready for review by council and staff. This approach shows you how iterative and collaborative working with AI can be. You don't get one answer, you build together. So just so you don't have to watch me type, I have preloaded these prompts. So I want to start with a really broad question here, a real foundational question. What are the best practices for an AI policy in a municipality and what should it include? So we're just going to let it think on that. The first prompt lets AI summarize global practices, things like ethical use, transparency, and data governance. So you can see it building that content. And then next, we'll narrow it down into Canadian municipalities. So if you wanted to cut and paste this, that's fine. And I would encourage you to do that so that you keep this iterative process documented and you can show your work for how you got to this point. So here's our next prompt. So we're going to define this and narrow it down to Canadian examples. So using Canadian examples, summarize how municipalities in Canada are approaching AI governance and ethical use. So the reason I really like to do this is I like to see, first of all, best practices, then who's doing what. And we typically will see those bigger municipalities leading the charge. They have bigger departments for communications, they have different departments for data governance, and we can really learn from them as they go. So here's some from Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, Ottawa, Hamilton to take a look at. And then we're going to bring it home to Drumheller. So here's my prompt. I'll show it to you next. I'll put it in here. So let's apply this to Drumheller. What considerations should be unique to a smaller Alberta municipality that uses AI for communications, data collection, or public engagement? Now, the reason I'm being specific to Drumheller, Alberta in my prompt is that this tool, Alchemy Recovery, has all of the municipal government acts for each province preloaded into it. So you do want to be specific about the area that you're in, depending on the policy that you're working on. And so we'll put that in, we'll let it think through that. So we wanted to start thinking about scale as well. So limited staff resources, potentially, rural connectivity, community trust, local service delivery. It's beginning to sound like something that fits this town. Now let's move to the policy framework. So I want to now start with an outline. So I have preloaded this to give it a bit of an outline of what it would include and what I want it to include. Now, I have done this by collecting data from the above research. So don't think that I already know. If I didn't know, now I've done quite a bit of training on AI myself, but if I didn't know that, the above training would have given me that information. So once we understand this context, it's really important for us to get organized. So we want to draft an outline for an AI policy for the town of Drumheller that includes key sections such as purpose, guiding principles, governance, data management, and training. So we want to prompt the tool to transform research into structure here. A clear framework will give this municipal policy that structured in order to give you what you need and be very specific about what you need. So here it's starting with an initial draft. Now, AI is never a final draft. It always has to have a human in the loop. And especially when it comes to a municipality, it's going to go through multiple iterations, but at least it's going to give you a starting training and compliance structure that you can work with. So here's our framework. So now we want to have it think about drafting the policy. So using So again, I've preloaded this so you don't have to watch me type, but using the outline above, write a draft AI policy for the town of Drumheller. Keep the tone professional and suitable for a municipal government document. This is really important. We want it to understand not to use emojis, not to use casual language, that this is for municipal work. Now, again, this tool is built with that framework in place, but sometimes AI has a tendency to go a little bit more casual than I prefer. So I do keep putting that reminder in for it. So here's our first draft of an AI policy. It's going to take a couple minutes to draft this. It's a complex request. Now, on something like this that's going to go to mayor and council, they might not have the same training on AI and data governance that you do. So we might need to add a little bit more clarity in place for someone who's new to this. So let's refine our policy here. So I'm going to ask it to revise the draft to make it easy for council and staff to understand with clear definitions and practical examples of what responsible AI use means in everyday municipal operations. So again, these are complex requests that we're asking it to do. It's going back to the knowledge files that I've preloaded into the tool to look at how it fits within the Municipal Government Act for Alberta, what the past research has been. So give it time. It might slow down through a prompt as it's thinking, but give it the time in order to do that. So, as we all know, transparency with the public is really important with municipal documentation and policy work. So, we're going to add a component here that um, lets us explain how the town will communicate the AI use with its public and with its residents. So we want to create trust here, showing residents how the town will use AI responsibly and invite feedback. So I've put this prompt in. Now, if you're struggling with prompts or if you haven't done a lot of prompting in the past before or in the past, um, you can ask the tool to give you sample prompts. So I would say, I'd like to build an AI policy for the town of Drumheller in Alberta. And what prompts would I use in order to understand best practices, understand what Canadian municipalities are doing that are leading the way? Or maybe you've got a draft policy and you upload that draft policy and you want to include that in there. So those are all components for ensuring that you get the prompting right. If the prompting isn't right, you're going to get something too simplistic. So here is something that adds that public transparency in. And then now we want to pivot to communication. So how are we going to communicate this to our council, mayor and council? And so here I want to create something simple, a one-page briefing note summarizing the purpose, benefits, and key principles of the town of Drumheller's proposed AI policy for presentation to the council. So here's the briefing note. So as you can see, it's a summary. It's nothing too um, in depth around AI or its policy, the policy itself. It's just a briefing note, but this lets you get started on a first draft on how you're going to communicate to your mayor and council. And then we're going to go to a rollout. So what would a rollout potentially look like? And again, this is first draft. I'm moving through this very quickly. This isn't necessarily how fast you would move through a policy like this, obviously. There'd be multiple levels of iteration, there'd be multiple levels of approval. We want to make sure that this is done ethically and responsibly, but I want to show you how building this tool or building a plan or a policy with this tool allows you to think about multiple angles based on the content that you're training it with. So outline a 6 to 12-month implementation plan for the town of Drumheller's AI policy, including steps for policy approval, staff training, risk assessment, and public reporting. So policies are only ever as good as their rollout. So this gives you a sense of what a rollout could look like for this town on the policy like this. But this gives you a map out of a practical timeline, turning that policy into action. And then finally, we would want to look at creating a comms plan to launch to the residents. And so I'm going to ask it to do that as well. Create a communication plan, excuse me, create a communication plan to launch and explain the new AI policy to residents, including a press release, website content, and key messages. So, Alchemy Recovery really delivers a communications toolkit to make policy real, transparent, and trustworthy, and the communications plan real, transparent, and trustworthy. So that's how we use this as a strategic partner. AI is not about replacing human decision making, but it's really accelerating it. So with just a few iterative prompts, we've moved from a blank page to an AI policy and draft format that the town can utilize as a starting point. And this can work for any municipality in Canada. So again, this is built for Canadian municipalities, no one else. It's got that framework built in. It's adaptable, collaborative, and efficient. So that's the power of thoughtful AI and public governance. So again, it's about acceleration, not replacing human governance. And then if you ever need to go back, you'll have your project over here so that you can look at it and revisit it as you move through those iterations. So I hope this helped, and certainly email us at info@alchemycommunications.ca if you have any other questions.